We move on with the program, and as I mentioned before, we have a slight adjustment to the program. Andrew McLeod was held up in Dallas. He will be with us tomorrow, and so we have Julie Pantiodosi coming to speak to us this morning, and of course she's also running workshops this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon. Julie's an amazing woman, and you'll soon get to hear that. She opened a hair salon when she was only 17. And from there, just by sheer hard work, energy, and the capacity to see things sometimes differently to the way often we see things, and we see roadblocks, Julie saw opportunities. Now that leads to a chain of hair salons, to an organic produce farm, to property development. But of more significance for us, unless you want to consult her about hair and organics, but really of more significance to us, is that she took her experience in what she did into developing herself as a successful, significant mentor and coach, and she runs a successful international business coaching career. She is a published author, speaker and trainer. I understand there's something like 2 million of her DVDs and CDs that have been bought around the world. One person talking about her said, "Julie delivered an honest, real and entertaining message. It's easy to understand why businesses can grow from being a part of an event like this." And when you actually get to hear, I'm not going to sort of talk about what she may say this morning, but I know that some of the personal stories that she tells are amazing, are very powerful, so I'll leave it for her to speak about that. So we're looking forward to hearing her speak about choosing life and creating your own destiny. Would you please welcome Julie Pantiodosi.
Entire life I've struggled with my own body language, because our body language says a lot about us, but also says a lot about us to other people. Now, if you have ever met someone, have you ever met someone and just instantly not liked them straight away? Has that ever happened to you? And it's not because they've even spoken, it's their body language or their presence. Now, I'm not going to talk about hair salons today, I kid you not. I left school when I was 13 and a half years old, which is just crazy because my son is 14, and just the very thought of him leaving school is horrifying. So my entire life I felt very stupid, just dumb, not good enough. And it's funny because sometimes the people who ooze the most confidence or look like they ooze the most confidence actually have the smallest self-esteem. And wherever I would be and wherever I would go, I would make myself small. So whenever I felt intimidated, my entire body would curl up and I would just feel stupid. At 17, I worked for a horrible salon who taught me every attribute a leader should never possess. Have you ever worked for someone who has actually made your life miserable, right? Get a little wave, anybody? Hopefully not. But it actually showed me all the things that I never wanted to be. So at 17, I chose to open up my own business. And I started my own salon. And at 19, I had 3 salons. And very quickly, I ended up with 26 stores. And I started having a following of people who wanted to work for me. Now, I was never a fantastic hairdresser. I mean, I could do your hair okay, but I definitely wasn't the best. And it was amazing what started happening where we would just have people showing up saying, "I want a job. I want a job. Are you looking for anybody?" And it was funny because there's actually 2 types of leaders. Those who lead and have authority. So because I'm your leader, you will do what I say you will do and you will follow me, and people do. And then there's leaders who have followers who follow them because they want to follow them. And very, very early on, at that very young age of 19, I had 58 staff, which then grew to 453 salon and spa people working for me. And it was amazing because most of them were older than me, and it was that thing, that concept of why should people believe in what I'm doing? Why should people show up every day and be part of what is my dream? Why should people help fill my dream? And I started very quickly, I started creating this followers of not only people that wanted to work for me, but companies that wanted to be part of what I was doing. So I'm 20 years old, and all these companies are asking me to speak for them and talk about how to build business. And I started speaking in the hair and beauty industry, and my message was somewhat, I was unclear on my message because they wanted me to show them how to build a salon. But you see, I wasn't in the business of hair and beauty, I was in the people business. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't know people, you are never successful. You have to know people. And that was always what I wanted to do, was I wanted to understand why people needed to get out of bed every day. I wanted to know why I needed to get out of bed every day. Isn't it that one thing that we just do? We just do, and we're almost on autopilot, and we just do what we do. And you know, and living now in the world that we live in, everybody has just stopped being nice. Have you noticed? I mean, you walk down a mall and you can smile at people and no one even acknowledges you. And there's me, hello, hello, that's me, hello, hello, hello. I think everyone thinks I'm, some sort of crazy person, but I just choose to be nice. And it's amazing how we've just stopped our entire human race. We now live on our phones, on email. We actually have relationships with people that are really close to us, but we don't even speak to them. Have you noticed? You can have a relationship with a friend and your entire relationship is based on SMSing because we're just too lazy. And there is nothing better when you're in the people business than picking up the phone and building relationships. And when we understand our own self-worth, now it's not a matter of I'm so good, universe, here I am. Sometimes that's what people think that it's all about, is knowing your self-worth, and it's actually understanding that, you know what, I do feel like I can't. When I started working for other companies and then other non-hairdressing companies, my bank, the National Australia Bank, asked me if I could speak to their bank managers. And I became very, very small. I said, what would I say to bank managers? I'm 22 years old. I'm only 23 now, so this was just last year. Why is that funny? What am I going to train to bank managers? And it was the same concept. If you're a leader, people have to believe what you believe. You can't have people around you just showing up every day, getting out of bed and working for a paycheck, because that's what they'll do. And the end result will show. I wanted people to show up and be part of what I believe, why I get up and why they need to get up and why they need to be part of what I believe. And very, very quickly on, I had to do something called faking it. Now, if you ever hear the saying, fake it until you make it, hands up if you've ever heard that concept before. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about faking it until you become it and knowing your self-worth. And so every single stage I stepped on, my heart was racing. Anyone a fan of public speaking, by the way? Right? I'm in my 20th year now, and it's still, the heart gets racing and the blood starts flowing. And something I forgot to tell you is that I suffer from horrible anxiety. The worst anxiety ever. Not depression, because I'm a happy person. Anxiety, crippling anxiety. One thing that we failed to mention this morning in my brief when we talked about what I've achieved is that I'm actually a survivor of 9/11, and that's why I'm here today. There's some things that happen in our life that you remember where you were and what you were doing. When Princess Diana died, just think about that for a second. Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you heard that news? And also when that day of 9/11 happened, we remember where we were and what we were doing. I particularly remember where I was. I just want to explain to you for a moment that we just get this one opportunity every day, just one. And we now live in a world where we are so good about bitching and moaning about just about everything. When it's too hot, we bitch and moan. Oh, it's too hot. When it's too cold, oh, we bitch and moan. It's too cold. We just bitch and moan about everything. And how we show up and our thoughts that we choose every day will determine everything of what happens. And you meet people who get to the end of the year and they say things like, oh, I just can't wait till 2016's over. This has been the worst year ever. A bad day can just be a bad day, right? I mean, I'm a motivational speaker. My name's Julie Piantadosi. The first thing I want to tell you today is life's a bitch. It's not very motivating, is it? Hands up if you've got stuff going on in their life. Hands up if you've got stuff going on. I just put 2 hands up, right? Because I've got so much stuff going on. Hands up who has to show up and lead people. Hands up if you're a leader. Hands up, hands right up if you're a leader. Some people are never short, I think so. Hands up if you're a leader. What does a leader do? What does a leader do? Influences people. A leader influences people. A leader influences people in a positive way. That's what a leader does. You see, the days of leading people by our voice and telling people what it is we want them to do are over. No one needs to be or wants to be led that way. They turn into what I call a resistor, somebody who will resist everything their leader tells them to do because they don't believe in their leader. When you have the power, or I should say the willingness, because it's a choice, right? If you want people to follow you because you're a formal leader, you have to have a willingness and you have to show them why they need to follow. What is it about that you do that makes you a bit special? And I ask that question of, if you're a leader, do you have superpowers? Hands up if you think you might have superpowers. Anyone? Hands up if you think you might have superpowers. 3 people. Superpowers is who we are. Superpowers is what makes you different to you and to you and to you. Superpowers is how we show up to our own life. Superpowers is who you are when no one is watching you, because that's really who you are. Because it's easy to be amazing when everybody's watching you. But the true person of who you are is when nobody's watching you. And how you treat people says a lot about people's character. Wouldn't you agree with that? How you treat people when no one's watching you. And there's so much talk about random acts of kindness, doing random acts of kindness. And I'm a big believer that to build our personal resilience, to be able to have the ability to get back up when we get knocked down in life, because we're going to get knocked down a lot, especially if you're a leader. You're going to be hurt. You're going to be, you have to build your own personal resilience. So when you get back up again, if we build our resilience, if we have the ability to say, you know what? I've got superpowers. I am a bit special. Who I really am is who I am when no one's watching me. How I influence people around me. How kind you are when you walk down the street. How you interact with your people. How empathetic you are. Because everybody's got stuff going on. And when you meet someone, you don't know what stuff they've got going on. We all have our own pile of stuff. And actually, we just have this little hammer that we just chip away at. And I never let my pile get too big. You meet people that they walk around looking really heavy. Have you ever met one? Usually on the in-law side. And they just look so heavy. And everything they do is hard. And they have a very, what I call, victim-like mentality. Now, I used to be one of these people myself. You don't wake up being happy and positive. People always ask me, how do you be so happy? And I faked it until I became happy. Because some days are so good, aren't they? When your bills are paid, when your relationships are good, when your mother-in-law's nice, when all those things are going your way, everything is great. It's easy to show up and be amazing, but when you've got stuff going on and you've got to dig really deep, and if you lead people, you've got to dig really, really deep. And if you can be amazing and have superpowers on your worst possible day, when everything is stacked up against you, that's what I call winning at life. And we just have this one opportunity, just one. When I created my empire of success. I set up businesses over in the US. And what I love, the difference between running business over in the US and running business in Australia, is in Australia we pay people just for showing up. Just a body. We just need a body and we pay them. When you're in the service industry in America, we pay people just for showing up minimum wages, and when they're amazing and they have superpowers, then they get tipped. So the whole concept is different. And I started travelling and commuting a lot in America. And that day of 9/11, the evening before 9/11, I was speaking to my mentor, who is my father. And my father is an engineer. He's an Italian engineer who came over from Italy and couldn't speak much English and put himself through university to become an engineer. So education was everything to him. So he was the biggest person I let down when I said I wanted to be a hairdresser. He was mortified. And he just couldn't understand why I wanted to be a hairdresser. But it actually wasn't a hairdresser I wanted to be. I just wanted to lead people. That's really what I wanted. So when I rang my father the night before and I told him that my husband and I were on our way to Windows of the World for breakfast. So my father and mum kept track of me wherever we were and what we were travelling. And you can imagine at 11:55 at night when they were watching it unfold on TV. And that day, because nobody knew what was unfolding that day, absolutely nobody. Now, I was absolutely at ground zero on my way up to the elevator, my husband and I. And when that first plane hit, we didn't even know it was a plane. I didn't even know, even from looking up. I thought it was I thought it was like a helicopter or some small sort of aircraft. And everybody just stopped and gathered and watched. There was all emergency services all around us. They were going about, sirens were blaring. Everybody was, what is it? What happened? Everyone was just watching. Now, that day changed everything, for me especially. So while I was watching everything unfold, one thing that I remember was all the firemen just doing their job, just waking up that day with their superpowers, doing what they do every day. And they thought that they were saving people. They thought they were going to rescue people and this was going to be okay. Who would know that that tower was going to collapse? Who would know that both of them? Talk about mission accomplished. That day changed my life forever. And it's sad because sometimes we have to go through something so horrible to get to the other side. And those 10 days that I spent fighting for my life changed everything. If you remember those people that were completely submerged, running around looking like ghosts, dazed. I didn't even know that I was dying. I had bits embodied all over and I was just so shocked. I went into shock. And the worst part is my husband lost me and he went ahead and I got left behind and he was riddled with guilt for a really long time because I was officially declared missing. Because so much changed in the way things work. And, you know, even every time, now for someone who flies, I fly 4.2 flights a week. And I have for X amount of years. And every single flight I do, I go through a ritual. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 knocks, and I walk in. Now, I was fortunate enough to be part of Qantas and train the Qantas team. And I started to understand about aviation and they helped me understand that, you know, nothing is going to happen. But my anxiety is always there. And sometimes my anxiety for flying is so crippling that my entire body, the heart racing actually makes me feel like I'm going to die. But I just don't let it stop me achieving the things that I need to achieve. I understand that I have anxiety. I understand that I suffer for a fear of flying and a fear of that day happening again to me. But I continue to live my life to the fullest because we just don't know what's around the corner. We don't know if today's going to be the last day. And you imagine, I kept thinking to myself, if I did die that day, what were all the things I should have said and could have done? How can you not treat people with empathy when you meet them? How can you not be super nice? How can you not? If you have a title of leadership, don't ever take that for granted. If you have the power to influence people in a positive way, embrace it. It's the most amazing tool we have if you choose to use it to the best of your potential if you have superpowers. But if you just tell people what it is you want them to do, people show up and work for a paycheck. That's what they do. And it's that whole thing of fulfillment. That's really what we want. We want fulfillment. And actually, when people change jobs, people usually don't change jobs because they don't like the job. People change jobs because they don't like the leader. That's the truth. You could meet people who have the most amazing job, love what they do, just don't like the person they work for. And that's why they leave. And that's why we're in the business of people. You have to know people. You have to know the power of influence that you have. You have to know what it means to show up with a showtime attitude, regardless what you've got going on. Regardless what you've got going on. And when you start having the training that to the people around you, that regardless what you've got going on, you show up and you give 100%. And we now work in a standard in our country where nobody shows up and gives 100% anymore. We just 100% is too hard. Can't do that. So we say, how good is good enough? Now you're in the business of saving people's life. That's only a small percentage that you actually save their life. So much of the other time, you're just doing your job, right? So where do you get that fulfillment from? How do we get that job satisfaction, that fulfillment? Fulfillment actually comes not from what people give to us. Fulfillment comes when we do things for other people. Fulfillment comes when we do something for an employee that, you know what, just isn't getting it. Just isn't quite right. We put them in the too hard basket. If you're a leader and you influence people in a positive way, your job is to coach them constantly, to be amazing, to show their superpowers. Show them not technically just what they do, because God, you guys do that amazingly. Had an ambulance come to my house 3 times last year. Never in my life did I call an ambulance 3 times. My husband got mauled by a dog. My daughter fell over and my other daughter stopped breathing. And it's funny because you guys just do what you do all day long. But for someone like me, the experience that I had from those paramedics that came to my house made the entire thing amazing. All 6 of those people that came to my house oozed superpowers. I hope I get to meet them one day. Anyone in the room? Anyone in the room up to the Adelaide Hills? Because the power that you have, if you understand people and you understand empathy, those very important words, see, hear and feel. That's what empathy is. People say, oh, I'm empathetic, I understand empathy. Empathy is. Empathy is, this is me. I'm Julie. I'm married. I've got 3 kids. I left school when I was 13. I built up an empire. I'm now one of Australia's most sought after speakers, but I suffer from anxiety. This is me. Now look at me. Now stand in my shoes and feel what I feel for a minute. Empathy is see, hear, feel. It's a communication we have. And when somebody needs empathy, the words we say is, I can see how you're feeling. I can hear your concern. I can see how this is making you feel. I can hear your frustration. Because when people need recognition sometimes that we can just empathise with them. There's a big difference between being sympathetic and being empathetic. Because if someone says to me, I know what you went through that day, unless you were there, you don't know what I went through. The power of empathy is an amazing tool. Really sets up who we are. Our body language also says a lot about who we are. And before I go on to any stage, I'll get to speak to companies and organisations all over the world. And before I get onto any stage, whether it's big or small, I just take a moment and I go somewhere private. And if you ever have to face a challenge in your life or a meeting or confrontation, how good are we at confrontation? God, we're not good, are we? You have someone that we just allow people to breed. One negative person has the power of overcoming 3 positive people. Do you know that? I call them a resistor or a dream taker. Now, they don't just come in your personal life, they come in obviously in your working life as well. A resistor. A resistor has one common goal, to make everyone as negative and miserable as possible. That's their challenge of when they wake up every day. They resist everything. They usually start sentences like, that won't work, that's not a good idea. Well, how's this going to affect me? That's not my job. We kind of work in silos, don't we? We have no idea what it means to work in a team anymore. No idea. No idea what team culture means. What does it mean to really have each other's back? I mean, if you work in the Marines, right, or if you're going out fighting for your life, you know what it means to have each other's back. Yet we show up every day and we work in silos. Not my department, I don't know. I don't care. This is not my responsibility. I'm just going to take care of what I need to do today because it's too cold and it's too hot and I can't be bothered. We become very complacent. Everything becomes hard. We hate change. When something new is happening, we say, oh, no, that won't work because we don't even want to try. And our thoughts, whether you choose something, whether you think something's going to work or whether you think something's not going to work, either way you're right? So if you show up and you go, oh, this conference is going to be amazing, guess what it's going to be? Amazing. If you show up and you go, oh, this conference is, guess what it's going to be? Your thoughts determine everything. So the very first words you say when you wake up in the morning will determine the entire day. Oh, today's going to be so long. Oh, kill me. Have a great day. Have a great bloody day. Choose your thoughts. Yeah, today's going to be long. Yeah, today's going to be exhausting. Yeah, today I've got to work with a resistor. But what can I do? How can I show up? How can I use a little bit of superpowers? And for those of you who are still thinking, well, but I don't have any, then no one can help you. Because sometimes even resistors, when we talk about resistors, everyone starts thinking, oh, yeah, I know one. Got 2 in my team. I know that one. I know that one. Oh, yep, that one's one. That one's one. Sometimes we forget and we think, shit, maybe I'm the resistor. Maybe it's me. And it's that hard truth of actually looking in the mirror and saying, do I really like who I am? What would I love my team to say about me? If my team had to have a meeting just about me, can you imagine? A scary thought, right? If my team had to have a meeting just about me, what would I love them to say about me? Who you really are. Your why you do what you do, what sort of integrity you have. And you can have, I get to work with businesses who have lost everything. I mean, lost everything. Just had millions of dollars and lost everything, literally overnight. Nearly happened at Qantas, right? It's I'm not telling you private information, it's public information. It was all over everything. Of how quick a business or an organisation or a company can flip. So quickly. And if you lose your reputation, as a company, an organisation or a leader, if you lose your reputation, nothing you do, once your credibility is gone, once your team, one person in your team doesn't believe in you anymore, it's gone forever. It's gone forever. The other group of people we have is our visionaries. People who just get it. People who show up every day and believe in their leader. People who show up every day and believe in their organisation. People who show up every day and say, you know what? I've got this job running through my veins, through my blood. Hands up if you have what you do running through your blood. Hands up if that's you. Because I can't help you if it's not, right? That's the fulfilment that we have. But understand that there's no such thing as the perfect organisation, as the perfect leader, as the perfect team. And it frustrates me when an entire team says, you know what? When a leader says, my entire team is this, is that, is that, is that. There's no such thing as a bad team, in my opinion. Bad teams don't exist. Just poor leadership. Because they don't know people. So when you start saying every day, if you start focusing on solutions, what is possible, what is a way forward, yes, this is what the challenge is now, and help shifting people, help shifting their focus to what is possible, what is a solution. So when people are bitching and moaning to you about all the things that are wrong, help shift their focus. So what is a solution? And whenever anyone is bitching to you, start telling them that as a leader. You can bitch and moan to me as much as you want. You can come to me Because as the leader, that's your job, right? Is to allow your people to bitch and moan to you as much as they want. But for everything you're going to bitch and moan to me about, you must come up with 2 solutions. We have to help shift people's focus to be focused on what is possible, what is a way forward. And rather than be victim-like and be a resistor and show up every day and say, poor me, poor me. My mother-in-law is a resistor. She had a horrible life and her entire life lives with a poor me mentality. And people who live with a poor me mentality are very, very annoying to be around. Now, remember, this is the mother of my husband, so she's not going anywhere. And when we have someone like that in our family or in our team, we stay away from them. We allow them to breed and grow. We allow them to get bigger. They use their body language to get bigger. And they influence other people around them. Because that's their goal, is to influence everybody. And wherever we would go to a restaurant and 17 of us in the family would order steak. We'd all order the same steak. And everybody's was amazing. Except for hers. It was always dry. And she would say it. Oh, that would be my luck, always with the dry piece of steak. And I invited her over. Donald Trump was over many, many moons ago. And I invited her over, and I was a keynote speaker at an event he was doing. And I invited her over to Sydney with me. And I said, I just want you to... And I did the whole thing on Dream Takers. I thought, I'm going to influence her in a positive way. I'm going to get her to see what she is and, not be so negative and miserable anymore because she's killing me. And I did the whole thing on, an hour and a half on a Dream Taker just for her. And at the end of the event, I went up to her and I said, so how was it? And she said, oh, I love that stuff you did about the Dream Taker. It was amazing. I thought I got through to her. She said, my sister-in-law? That's her. And that is so typical. That is so typical of what a Dream Taker does, is they think it's everybody else. So that's their biggest trait. So before we start finger pointing and looking at all the Dream Takers around us in our life, we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror. And we've got to swallow and say, do I like what I see? What did my family say about me? What did my team say about me? And sometimes we have, hands up who has work clothes that they wear to work. Hands up if you wear work clothes, right? Yeah, work clothes. And we put our work clothes on. We put our work clothes on and we put our showtime attitude on too, right? Here we go again. Oh yeah, smile, happy, happy. Yep. And we put our showtime attitude and we show up to the organisation, to our day, to our team, whatever it is you're doing. And you show up and you do showtime. And you put in 12 hours of showtime. Yep, good, thanks. Yep, good, thanks. By the way, that's my reply to everything. How was your day? Good, thanks. How's your husband? Good, thanks. How's your mother-in-law? Really good, thanks. It's my reply to everything. Would you agree? No one cares either way. Just try it. Every time anyone asks you about anything, the answer is, good, thanks. So you live your entire day going, good, thanks, feeling amazing. You get home and you take off your work clothes. And your attitude comes off too, doesn't it? Thank God, today's over. And we start snapping at people. Hands up who has a family at home. If you have children, if you have a partner, hands up, right? I didn't ask if you like them or not. I just asked if you have them. Everything we do for them. Is that fair and reasonable to say? Is that fair and reasonable to say? Everything we do for them. And sometimes we cut ourselves into tiny little pieces and there's nothing left to give. You see, you people are in the giving industry. You give and give and give and give. No wonder you're exhausted at the end of the day. When you crawl into bed at night and everything aches. Have you ever had one of those days? It's like even the tip of your nose hurts. I didn't even use this today. Like everything aches. That's when you put in 100%, is when everything aches. And it's so important to understand that showtime happens when you go home as well, to the people that you love. And actually, if you ever hear the concept of your work life and your personal life, keeping them separate, I think it's an impossible task. I think the two are married. I think you have to master being amazing at work and being amazing at home. I don't think there's such thing as two separate. The two are married. Who you are in your professional life, how happy you are in your professional life is what you bring home to the people that you love and care about. Is that fair and reasonable to say? You have a horrible day. Who do you bring it home to? The people that you love and you care about. And I think that's really horrible. I think we have to have a showtime attitude when we walk through the door. And it takes a moment. It takes a moment before you do anything just to make yourself big for a minute. Just to feel your own presence. Because your body language, how you show up, your body language determines your mind and your thoughts. So our body language determines our mind and our thoughts. Our thoughts change our behaviour of how we show up and what we do and our interactions and the words we choose to say. And our behaviour changes the outcome. And everything I do, I work as an end result. So if I'm building, at the moment I'm building a group of 5 houses, what's the end result? If I'm building a salon, what's the end result? If I'm going to do a keynote speak, what's the end result? Start backwards. Start with the end result in mind. If you start your day, what's the end result? If you start on a Monday, what's your end result? What's the end result? Because if you understand what the end result is, it will help you choose the interactions you have throughout the day. And actually, the words, when we're dealing with confrontation, our words that we use are just 5% of a difference of opinion. Our body language is everything. Usually if you have confrontation with someone, people get upset, not about what the issue is, but your tone and how you said it. That's what they get upset about, not actually what the difference of the opinion was. So choose what you say when you're interacting and when you're working with conflict, especially when you're working with team. If you're going to have that concept that if you're not happy, please tell me, because I'm the person who can change. Because it's that trickling effect when people stop bitching and moaning to leadership and they bitch and moan with each other. Then we create a workplace called Victims Are Us, where a whole team shows up with their own victim statement, their own poor me attitude. They all show up and they start their day with that. And every single thing that they do is hard. And they have this concept that work is hard. Work is easy, life is hard. Is that fair and reasonable to say? Life is hard. Let's not get the two confused. And I live on this 1 to 10 rule. 10 being death. 10 being death. Now, regardless of what your religious beliefs are, I believe, this is just my own opinion, when you're dead, you're dead. Just my opinion. I haven't actually met anyone who's come back and said, actually, this is where you go. When you're dead, you're dead. 1 is everything else. 1 is having a bad day. 1 is not making enough money. 1, or just all choices. 1 is your attitude. 1 is everything else. What even gets up close to that? Moving house, 5, 6. A divorce. Someone always says, what about a divorce? It's a 9, because I'll still find another husband. 10 is death. 10 is death. And actually people who just live their whole life at a 10 are people that have road rage. They're just angry all the time. You actually see their body language is clenched. What did you say? They're just pissed off all the time. They just live, everything is hard and they live at a 10. It doesn't have to be like that. Just this one opportunity. And it takes one person to create change. And that's the biggest reason why change doesn't happen anymore, is because everyone leaves it to everybody else. They think it's too hard. I'm only one person. What can I do? One person has the ability to do anything. You look at Movember. Movember, hands up if you know Movember, right? Movember, where did Movember start? Anyone know where Movember started? Here, in my hometown, Adelaide. Movember started in Adelaide. 2 men who went on the speaking circuit and went on to do amazing things in all different sorts of organisations and fundraising, amazing things. And they wanted to create 2 things. They didn't even know what it was that they wanted to create. Now, if you are a gentleman who has never had facial hair before and you grow a mo, people notice. Is that true? That's what I've been told. Is that true? It's true, right? I don't know because I don't grow a mo, but it's true. So they wanted to create awareness and they wanted people around them to ask them what it was that they were doing. And it wasn't even about raising money. They just wanted to raise awareness for men's health. And it then went over and they started talking to what I call 5 rows, the people closest to you. You see, you can't influence people in another room or in another department. The people closest to you that you influence are your people in your 5 rows, the 5 rows in front of you, the 5 rows behind you, the people closest to you. That's really the ability that you have to influence. And it then went on to their circle of friends and it came the Movember Foundation in Melbourne. We lose everything in Adelaide to Melbourne and went over to Melbourne. And then, last year, $122 million in men's prostate cancer. Just amazing what one person has the ability to do. Me now. If not me, who? If not now, when? I live by that. A little place called excellence always. how I choose to show up every day, how I choose to walk through the door, how I choose to lead my team, how I choose to parent my children, how I choose to influence them. Excellence always in everything that I do. And it's applying myself with the willingness on my worst possible day. Because I have days when I crawl out of bed, especially when people tell me how lucky I am. Oh, you're so lucky. I say, yes, I am, because the luck fell out of the sky and hit me on the head. No such thing as luck. The right timing, the right place at the right time. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe in hard bloody work though. That's the only way the job gets done. It's called hard bloody work. You roll your sleeves up. You see what it is you want. That's what a visionary does. They see what they want. They put a plan in place and they set out to achieve it, and they don't stop until they achieve it. A resistor also sees what they want. They make a plan and then make up every excuse of why it's just not going to happen. Hands up if you're a visionary in the room. Hands up if you're a visionary. Hands up if maybe you do have some superpowers after all that you just didn't even know about, but now you do. Hands up if you have some superpowers. Oh, 7 people. That's better. That's better. So really understanding as well that every day when we show up, we are in the middle. We're not always fence-sitters. We're not always resistors. We're not always visionaries. We are fence-sitters. You were all fence-sitters when you showed up today. When you heard about me, is it going to be good? Wonder if she's going to be all right. Maybe I'll sit at the back of the room, because if she's not, I'll just leave. Wonder if there's going to be food. You have all these things going on in your mind. It's always about the food, isn't it? It's always about the food. How upset do we get when the food's not good? Oh, that was the worst. And it's that thing of who you hang out with. If you sat next to someone who's heard me speak before and says, oh, she's amazing, she's really good, you're influenced. But if you hang out with, just imagine if you hang out with someone who said, oh, I don't really like her, she's not very good, you're also influenced. And your entire team shows up every day as a fence sitter, every day. They just show up every day. We show up every day. Walk through the door, put our Showtime face on. Morning, morning, good thanks, fence sitter. We're influenced by who we hang out with. You become like the 5 people you spend most of your time with. It's a scary thought, isn't it? How important is it when we're in a world where we are so busy and so tired? Hands up if you're busy. Hands up if you're tired. I am buggered, absolutely buggered, right? Hands up. Everybody is busy and tired. Every successful person I meet is busy and tired. Every leader I meet is busy and tired. It's exhausting. And we have to have somewhat of a suck it up, sunshine kind of attitude. I'll say those words to myself. Suck it up, sunshine, you got work to do. And you roll up your sleeves and you put in the work. You see what you want, you make a plan, you set out to achieve it. And all the obstacles that come in your way build your resilience, make you stronger, more determined. When everyone said what I wanted to do was impossible, when my principal at my college said to my dad, nothing will become of her, those words made me feel stronger. And it's not a matter of proving it to him. You've got nothing to prove to anyone. Is that fair and reasonable to say? You've got nothing to prove to anyone. It's proving it to yourself. Faking it until you become it. Faking your own self-belief. And if you're not an amazing, inspirational leader, you can fake it until you become it too. If you're willing to put in the work. Anything is possible. Only takes one person to create change. Anything is possible. And when you start seeing people following you because they choose to, when you start being the sort of leader, and I'm talking about social media following, sometimes people get a bit confused. And we just live on social media, and actually you can follow people on social media and not even like them. Is that fair and reasonable to say? That's not what we're talking about here. And boy, has social media absolutely killed us. We're addicted to social media, just addicted. Now, it's great to be on social media. Social media is a fundamental part of business. The human race depends on social media. It's important. Just don't let it overtake your life. Put some restrictions on it. If you're going to do Showtime when you get home, give your family your undivided presence. And there's a big difference between being busy and being tired, and being busy, being tired, but still being present, and giving the people that you love the respect that they deserve. And being present doesn't mean multitasking, it means I'm here. And actually, being present and words of affirmation are the number one thing. There was a big survey that was done by people of what was important to them in organisations, what they needed. And I thought more money would be up there, but it was actually number 4. Recognition. Recognition. The third one was quality time. They wanted time with their manager, time to sit down with their leader and hear about what they're doing that's great, hear about what they're doing that's not so great. The better you understand people, not just in your team, but in general, the better you start reading people's body language. And we don't mirror people. That's actually, what we do is we mirror people. That's not what I recommend you do. So when someone's horrible to us, we be horrible back to them. Someone gives us a bit of attitude, we give it straight back to them. It's actually the opposite. If you're around someone and if you just take a moment before you go into a difficult situation to be aware of your presence, just take a moment to pose. Now this pose here is the pose of pride, right? Now if you see people running a race at the Olympics, at the end of the race, what do? Yes! When something amazing happens, what do? Yes! And actually it's a proven fact that there was runners and there were some that were blind and some that could see, and they both did the same pose of pride. Yes! That I've never seen it before. It's a human feeling. It's a human feeling of faking it till you become it, of feeling worthy, of feeling I can do this. I'm going to fake it until I become it. And the more you start saying it to yourself about being happy, about being optimistic, about being the sort of person that people wanted to be around, about being, the more you start believing, the more you start becoming, the more it becomes automatic, just becomes part of who you are. And then you just get happy, like me, because you chose to be. So you can choose to be a miserable cow, or you can choose to be happy. And they're the choices that we have every day, because we don't know what's around the corner. And imagine if we just live every single day, if we create a workplace where people come together focused on solutions. I call it Initiators Inc. Not victims are us, that's the opposite, right? Initiators Inc., where people come together, focused on solutions, focused on having each other's back, focused on this is what I have to achieve today, what are you achieving today, what can I do for you, what can you do for me? As opposed to me. We kind of live our bodies are somewhat like our tank of fuel on our car, and we have to feel full, fulfillment. And we think that means that other people have to give it to us for us to feel full. And we want to know we're doing a good job. We want to know we're appreciated. We want to know all those things. But fulfillment comes when we give it to other people, when we recognise what other people need, and we recognise that we have the power and the ability to do anything we want. Anything is possible through the power of influence. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me this morning. I hope I have shared some inspiration to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you out the workshops. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.